Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner, who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. And also joining us is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael Worldby Freer, who's a senior writer at StatFactor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. This is episode number 149, which goes out to both of Ben Simmons' previous franchises in the Brooklyn Nets and Philadelphia 76ers, as both teams currently have 49 losses on the season. All while Ben Simmons has carved himself out a useful role on the 40-31 Los Angeles Clippers out west. More on Benny and the Clips later. But before we tip things off, just a quick reminder. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Even if your bracket is busted, BetOnline has more ways to stay in the action with a free Sweet 16 bracket and live betting on every remaining tournament game. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to MLB, NHL, and MMA, BetOnline continues to be your number one betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here.
Hey, Ross, usually we record this show on Monday night, but we're a day late this week. So what kept you so busy that you tapped the brakes on 48 minutes this week?
Well, I had a good friend of the show come into town, and that was Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks, who happened to give me his tickets to the Suns-Bucks game on Monday night. So I went ahead and took my wife and enjoyed a nice evening watching the Greek Freak here in Phoenix. And while it wasn't the outcome that I was hoping for, as the Bucks just fell short, Giannis had a heck of a game and had a lot of fun catching up with him post game as well.
I'm impressed that you were able to get a babysitter and actually take your wife to an NBA game on a school night, if you will. But anyway, so look, any personal highlights from the game? It was a great back and forth game. KD with 38, Giannis 31 and 10. Did those two have a moment by any chance?
They sure did. So after the game, Giannis came out of the locker room with a signed Kevin Durant jersey. And I go, was that a swap, Giannis? And he's like, no swap this time. I just needed his autographed jersey for my home gym. And he showed me, he was proudly showed me the jersey, and it said, "To Giannis, the MF and GOAT." And he was really proud of that. He goes, "You see that? You see that? Read that." And I was like, I got it. All right. And really cool moment. And a lot of respect between those two that have battled for years and had a battle down the stretch late in that fourth quarter last night, which was truly fun to watch and definitely something that us basketball fans can't take for granted, because who knows how many more years we have of KD and Giannis battles in their prime.
Yeah, but some bad news from Milwaukee on the injury front, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, really bad news. Just broke here as of Monday night, or Tuesday night. I'm sorry, I'm getting my dates mixed up here. Damian Lillard has been diagnosed with a blood clot in his right calf, and that will have him sidelined indefinitely. The Milwaukee Bucks made a team statement on that here tonight, and wanted to first react to that. We'll start with you. What are your thoughts just taking in the news?
Well, it's a devastating blow for the Bucks, and obviously Damian Lillard. You know his health is first and foremost the most important thing, and this is obviously when you're dealing with blood clots, it's a extremely serious issue. So who knows how long he'll be out, and when he comes back, if he gets able to come back this season, he'll obviously be a plus for the Bucks. But yeah, not having him in the lineup is going to be a definite blow to the Bucks' chances to get up to one of the top 4 seeds, but obviously that's all secondary to Lillard's health.
What's strange is, last year, Asar Thompson missed a bunch of games because of blood clots. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama is out for the rest of the season because of blood clots. Now, Dame Lillard. I mean, blood clots never really seemed to be a thing in the NBA, other than, Chris Bosh, of course, having to, end his career prematurely. But that was kind of like a one-off and you never heard about it again. I'm wondering, why? I mean, is there something going on, or is it just simply a freaky coincidence?
Yeah, I asked myself the same question there, Bruce. And I think with all this news, with Wemby, now Dame, are more players going to get tested for this? I mean, you got to think that they're going to be a little nervous about, is this a strain? What's the swelling? Like maybe I need to, get tested for this as well. And maybe this will unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, catch some major issues here. But obviously our thoughts go out to Damian Lillard, his family, and the Bucks franchise, as this is some scary stuff. And we wish him the best of luck in his recovery and hope we can see him back on the floor soon, because the NBA is just much better when we have Dame time out there. And it's going to be tough for the Bucks. I mean, last night they started Ryan Rollins at point guard, got some heavy minutes and a big opportunity for Kevin Porter Jr., who's had some spots this year, but as far as, title contention, can't do it without Dame.
No.
And with that, Bruce, we've got some other big news. The sale of the Boston Celtics. It was reported that the NBA's goal was for the Celtics to sell for over $6 billion in this deal, and they ended up selling for $6.1 billion. So great news for the former Celtics owners and for Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA. But I just wanted to first, before we get into this discussion, get your initial thoughts and reactions to the transaction.
First of all, if you think about it, if you know anything about the business of sports, the fact that an NBA team with a franchise that doesn't own its own arena has now become the most valuable sports franchise in American sports. And that includes the NFL, which has always had teams. So it's like, I mean, I guess you could say that that's a pretty good brand. And look, the Boston fans are really reassured about this because the new owner, a guy named Bill Chisholm, grew up an hour from Boston. He's a lifetime Celtics fan. Some Celtics fans have already nicknamed him Billy Banners, which is pretty funny. His group paid, as you mentioned, $6.1 billion. So Celtics Nation, is got to be hoping, look, if you're shelling out that kind of money for this team, you're going to keep that wallet open while the C's still have an open championship window. And right now they do. I mean, they could have a nice 5-year run in front of them, because Tatum's 27, Brown is 28, Hauser and Pritchard are 27, Porzingis and Cornet are 29, Derek White's 30, Drew Holiday and Al Horford, they're the old heads at 34 and 38. And, when Al Horford, I read a story on Horford in The Athletic about the sale, and that guy is a total culture carrier for the franchise. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that when he decides he's done, number 42 is going up to the rafters in the TD Garden.
Well, I got to say, Bruce, at this point in time, I'm not going to call him Billy Banners, but I'll call him Billy Bucks, because he definitely has the bucks to pay that out. Will be, obviously, your Mets. We're kind of shifting to baseball here. They've had an ownership change, obviously, as Steve Cohen, who's got a lot of bucks himself. But what's your takeaway from just the standpoint of a Knicks fan looking at the Celtics selling for this much, and where do you think they'll go from here as an outsider to the Celtics fandom?
Well, if you look at it and you read, you listen to what you read or listen to what you hear, this is, Bruce says they have a nice run in them, and they could, but they are really treading water in terms of the luxury tax apron, reaching the second apron. That is the third rail for NBA teams, the penalties that incur for being in that quote unquote second apron of the luxury tax is something everybody wants to avoid. The Celtics are no different. So while they have some young guys poised for a run, they're going to have some serious changes to make with the roster this offseason, because you can't keep everybody and stay under the second luxury tax apron. So Porzingis, where is he going to be next year? Drew Holiday, it's easy to say, well, we'll let him go, but he's got about $100 million owed to him. There's not going to be a whole lot of takers. His trade value isn't going to be that high. So they have some decisions to make. They have the right personnel, and Brad Stevens, Joe Mazzulla as head coach. They have the right people to make the good personnel moves and do it on the court. But they do have some big decisions upcoming for this new ownership.
Now, they are headed for the repeater tax, and keeping the band together is going to be expensive, but this is a rare opportunity to get on a Warriors-like run, and you got to grab it. But here's the thing in their favor. When the new national TV deals kick in next year, each team is going to get $230 million per year, okay, for the next 11 years. That's before they sell local TV or radio rights, before they rake in any advertising money, sell a single ticket, beer, hot dog, souvenir, or parking space, okay? And then with the expected franchise fees that they'll get from the next two teams, each team is probably in line to get somewhere between $250 and $300 million as their share of the new team's, entry fee. So even with the high salaries, teams are going to do quite well, especially in the smaller markets. And yes, I can't see any cities other than Vegas or Seattle getting expansion teams. And if that happens, some Western Conference team will move to the East. I don't know what you guys think, who you guys think would move to the East. I think it would probably be Memphis. Who do you guys think?
That's what I had. I had Memphis or possibly Minnesota, but I think Memphis makes the most sense. What about you, Will B?
Yeah, I figure Memphis, New Orleans, I don't know. They could be in line to move east. It doesn't not a huge geographical move there, but yeah, it makes sense for one of those cities to move. Memphis makes the most sense. I don't disagree with that. It would certainly add some in the immediate, some toughness, some quality team to that conference. It seems to be lopsided towards the Western Conference now. It'd be nice if the Grizzlies started to play a little bit better here in the second half, so you could make that look better in a couple of years. But for the moment, the overall, that would be the logical choice.
Can I say something about the arena situation here? Because much was made of the fact that, they don't own their own arena. The Boston Bruins ownership has it. I don't know if that will happen. All right. Now, here's the thing. In Boston, real estate is pretty tight. There's not a lot of space in Boston proper. So if they were ever going to plan to build a new arena, it would likely have to be in the suburbs where more land might be available. But I think that would be a real disservice to a large part of the fan base. The NBA is an urban sport, and a lot of passionate Celtics fans live in the city, and it's great that they can get to games easily at TD Garden. So I don't know if any discussion has gone on as far as building a new arena, and if so, where's it going to go? But if they ever took the team out of Boston, I think that would be a real stab in the back for some really loyal fans that are kind of city dwellers, many of whom might be lower income and aren't going to want to make that trek out to the suburbs for a game. So I really question whether a new arena is even in the picture at this point.
Yeah, good point and great perspective there, Bruce. Now, World B, the Cavs. Let's move on to the top of the Eastern Conference with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They just hit their roughest stretch of the season, losing a season-high 4 straight games, which ended on Sunday with a road victory over the Jazz in Utah. And while there's almost zero chance that they'll blow their lead for the top spot out east, do we need to keep an eye on how they look down the stretch? If they stumble to the finish line and go somewhere in the 6-5 in their final 11 games, do you think there could be some concern that they have peaked too soon?
There absolutely is concern. And the issue with them at the moment, it's not panic situation, obviously, yet, but there is reason to question, hey, what's going on? And given their history in the postseason recently, since LeBron James left, it hasn't been super duper stellar. They, a couple of years ago, got beat by the Knicks and got pushed around by the Knicks, really, in that first round. Last season, they went to 7 games against the Magic and had to come from behind in Game 7 at home to finally blow out Orlando. So they need, if they're going to have a nice run here, they have to play better defense. Their defense is really, it's been their Achilles heel of sorts, if you can actually have one with a team that's going to win 60-plus games. But their defense hasn't matched up with what their offense is. They have one of the best offenses in the league. They're the best shooting team in the league. But during the 4-game losing streak, the last 3 games of that losing streak, they gave up 120 points at least every game. So it is something to be concerned with going forward. And, Bruce, we've talked about it before, with the Celtics championship pedigree, the Celtics don't need the home court advantage. Cleveland probably does to have, the best possible opportunity to come out of the East and, figure they're going to end up playing the Celtics. You want to be at your best. You don't want to be limping into the postseason.
The Cavaliers, there is no danger of them blowing their lead. I really don't. Boston would have to win. Boston would have to win every single game, and I don't even think they should try to win every single game. I think they got bigger fish to fry, and as you mentioned, World B, they have no problem playing on the road. But in the next week, Cleveland is going to see the Pistons, the Clippers, and the Knicks, okay? And if they don't win 2 of those games, I'm going to be concerned about their mental edge slipping on them a little bit. And then in the last 4 days of the regular season, they get the Pacers twice. And those are going to be tough tests because the Pacers are probably going to be playing for seeding at that point. So they're going to be coming out to win those games. They're not going to be load managing anything. So as World B mentioned, if they hit the playoffs and look like they're running on fumes, it very well could mean they peak too soon. And, luckily for them, their core 4 of Spida, Garland, Mobley, and Jared Allen, they've been relatively healthy this year, and they need those guys to stay healthy and fresh.
The problem is, too, I'm sorry. The problem is, too, as Bruce mentioned, it's the schedule here. They're going to be playing 2 games against the Knicks. Now, they've crushed the Knicks twice this season, and it's been an ongoing thing for the Knicks not being able to beat the 3 best teams in the league. So, the Knicks are going to be primed up to try and get one of these games and try and shake that stigma. So you're going to get the Knicks' best shot, at least in one of these games, if not both. And then you have, as Bruce mentioned, the Pacers, who are trying to get their own playoff position and are playing really well in the second half of or post break of the season. So they're not going to just lay over it's going to be a challenge for Cleveland the rest of the way.
It really is. And I'm glad you guys mentioned that the rest of their remaining schedule, because as of Tuesday night, Donovan Mitchell is not playing tonight in Portland for the road game. So it seems like he's certainly gearing up for this tough stretch that lies ahead. And they're going to need him the rest of the way to get that positive momentum heading into the playoffs. Now, next up, we've got the Los Angeles Clippers. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games and lost by just 2 points to Oklahoma City on Sunday. Ben Simmons, as I mentioned at the top of the show, has been a useful piece off the bench for this team, and especially with his defensive versatility out there on the floor. And speaking of defense, Kawhi Leonard has been a beast in March, and his minutes have been ramping up. They're currently sitting in the number 8 spot out west, but they are just 1 game out of the number 6 spot. So lots of movement could still be had. So it begs the question, Bruce, are we sleeping on the Clippers?
We very well might be. I mean, they've got a big East Coast trip this week with New York, Brooklyn, Cleveland, and Orlando. Challenging. Knicks are, going to battle them. Brooklyn, Orlando, might be W's, but Cleveland is still there. You mentioned Kawhi. I mean, his he looks like the guy we remember now. For the first time in years, he looks like the guy we remember. And I think it's important to say a few kind words about Ivica Zubac, who's been a rock all season for those guys. And he's also had an incredibly productive March, averaging almost 21 a game, 12 and a half rebounds. He's played in all but 2 games this season. On the Clippers, that's a big deal. He's only missed 2 games. He pounds the offensive boards. He gets his team second chance opportunities. He scores 16 a game with almost no plays ever called for him. But he cleans up the junk on the offensive boards. It seems like he's been around forever, but he just turned 28 last week.
Yeah, pretty amazing. World B, what's your thoughts on the Clips?
I think they are gearing themselves up for a run here. And as you guys mentioned, Kawhi Leonard, he seems to be positioning himself to really make a last month or last 3 weeks of the season a push to help the Clippers get not only a better position for the playoffs, but in the playoffs. Coming off a season high minutes played, he played a few weeks ago in the back-to-back. I mean, that just doesn't happen. He's gearing himself up to go. He's been awesome since the All-Star break. 24 a game, 50% from the field, 42% from three-point range. Here's the thing. The Clippers have had a great defense all season. If it wasn't for the Thunder just dominating the league in defense, you'd have a really good battle between the Clippers, the Magic, the Rockets for the second best defense in the league. They're right up there. And now their offense is starting to – it's been their problem spot all season, their offense, and it's starting to get better. They're one of the best offensive teams in March, just when you want to be if you're the Clippers. And obviously we've mentioned it time and time again, I'm a huge Ty Lue fan. So if you're getting into the playoffs with momentum and I have Ty Lue and everybody's healthy, yeah, there's a run coming.
And, James Harden, who I have not always been a fan of, okay, he is still there, 22 and a half a game, nearly 9 assists, still turns it over a little bit more than I'd like to see, 4.4. That can be a problem. But all in all, he's doing pretty well for a 35-year-old. And in a playoff series, when the pace slows down and the crafty guys like him can get some whistles and go to the foul line, he still has something to prove, even though he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's got, he's never really been able to, close the deal. So this might be his last best chance.
He better shoot. He better learn. He better fix it. I'm serious. If he's going to have that run in him, he better fix his shot. He's the only player in the league averaging 20 points a game and shooting under 40% from the field. He's got to get that better if they want to be a serious player in the postseason.
Yeah, hopefully if he doesn't have the shot rolling, he will defer to the wings there with Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell. But the thing about that trio, Harden, Powell, and Kawhi, they've all been in big moments before. They're not scared of big shots, and we know that they can not only take them, but they can make them, and they can get to the foul line as well. All three of them are very crafty at drawing some whistles. So keep an eye on the Los Angeles Clippers come playoff time. Now, heading back east, we've had a Jimmy Butler return to Miami as of Tuesday night, and it wasn't what it was all hyped up to be, unfortunately. I was hoping we were going to have a much more fun conversation in regards to this one. The Miami Heat won 112-86. Jimmy Butler, just 11 points on 5 of 12 shooting, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Not much going on there, and the Heat were coming off a Sunday victory that snapped a 10-game losing streak. And they can thank that victory to Andrew Wiggins' big game, scoring 42 points. So I thought leading up to this one, maybe Andrew Wiggins would get hot and kind of the joke would be on the Warriors and Jimmy's return. He also had a poor night from the field, 4-13 shooting, only 10 points. So kind of a doozy overall, but looks like the Heat are still going to make the plan as the final play-in team in the East, despite being 2-11 now in their last 12 games.
What have I always said about the Miami Heat? They're always better than you think they are. Okay.
Yeah.
And that isn't always great. I mean, sometimes you think they're going to be awful and they're mediocre. Other times you think they're going to be mediocre and they make the NBA Finals as a play-in team. But in the first half, Miami just shut them down. All 5 Warriors starters at halftime, all 5 guys had 2 points each. I've never, ever seen that ever, where all 5 starters in a game all had 2 points exactly at halftime. Look, it's an aberration. Warriors, they need Steph Curry, period, end of discussion. I mean, Jimmy and him have been great together, but apart, not so much.
Yeah, and I failed to mention that, so good point there. Will be any thoughts other than, Curry wasn't available? I mean, how much can we take away from this Miami win and Jimmy not playing too well without Curry?
Well, until Miami gets their offense together, they can make the play-in, but they're not going to last very long. I mean, Tuesday's win, that makes them 2-17 in their last 19 games against teams that currently have a winning record. So It's real. And actually, if you want to go back one further, it's 3-17 in their last 20. 2 of the wins coming against the Warriors. So they don't score. They're just since Butler played his last game in late January, they averaged just over 105 points a game. So they cannot score. They had a double-digit lead during that 10-game losing streak. They had a double-digit lead in 5 of those games and couldn't hang on. Lost all 5. They just don't score enough on the court there's not enough guys on there to put the ball in the basket for them to be taken seriously. This is a nice win, but the Hornets have had nice wins too. I'm not predicting them to do anything special the rest of the season either. They just you have to be able to put the ball in the basket, and without Butler, since he's been gone, they just haven't been able to do it.
Watch for this highlight if you're watching the highlights of this game tonight. Towards the end of the second quarter, Miami's rookie big Khalil Ware. I don't know if you guys might have been watching. He went up for a shot. The ball slipped out of his hands. He grabbed it out of midair and threw it off the backboard over his head with English, and it went in. It was like, it was just a great acrobatic, hand-eye coordination shot. So, I'm hoping that if, it'll be one of the highlights on social media. But if not, if you're a league pass person, you can go back and spin through the game at some point. Check out that play. It was really amazing.
Sounds like a SportsCenter top 10.
For sure.
All right, and with that, let's go ahead and get to musical chairs in the West as we have the 2 through 5 seeds really kind of dancing for positioning as we head down the stretch near playoff time. As 2.5 games or less separate all 4 teams battling out for playoff positioning, which are the Houston Rockets, the Denver Nuggets, Los Angeles Lakers, and Memphis Grizzlies. So I thought we'd take a look into each team and their remaining schedules. Bruce, we're going to start off with the Houston Rockets. This is a team that, after losing 3 straight games to kick off the month of March, went 9-1 in their last 10 games since then. Currently second out west with a 1.5 game lead over the Denver Nuggets, who were the team to snap the Rockets' 9-game winning streak on Sunday. So where are you at right now with Ime Udoka in H-Town?
Well, I had predicted before the season that he would win Coach of the Year, and I don't expect that that's actually going to happen. I think Kenny Atkinson, unless they completely fall on their face, is going to get that award. But I do believe that he should finish second, maybe third. J.B. Bickerstaff's going to get some love, which he deserves. Okay. Mm-hmm. But Rockets are sitting on 46 wins. They've already exceeded the over-under number for the preseason. They have 4 remaining home games, 6 road games, and their schedule's challenging. Here are 4 of their 6 road games: at the Lakers twice, at the Warriors, at the Clippers. And in a couple of their home games, they have Denver and OKC. So, it's not going to be easy. I think they'll basically just make it to 50 wins, which is a wonderful achievement for them. But I think, they're going to really have to dig deep to do much more than that.
Yeah, well, you hear that schedule will be and the teams that they have to face here before the playoffs. For a young team like this that's still trying to gather experience and possible momentum into the playoffs, aren't these the teams you'd rather play? I think with this Rockets group, you look at guys like Jalen Green, Tari Eason, just going to call those two out individually there. If they're playing some bad teams right now, they might get comfortable, and there's no time to get comfortable. If you're a Rockets fan, don't you think that's the best to go up against the best competition right now?
I think it would be. It'd probably be better if you could flip the home and road schedule around, so some of those matchups could be at home to build your confidence. Going on the road and playing teams that have when you're in this conference, you're in playoff position, as we're talking about, is important. You're going to get the Lakers' best. They have to get something. They have to get it in gear here with LeBron and Luka getting in shape for the playoffs. The Warriors are certainly going to be geared up. They don't want to be in the play-in, which is a very real possibility. And then you have the Clippers, who are in the same spot as the Warriors. They're in the play-in, trying to get out of it. So they have feasted this season, the Rockets, on playing bad teams. They're 27-8 against teams that currently have losing records, but they only play 3 of those games left. 2 of them against the Jazz, and then the Suns, who are suddenly on fire. They're a losing team in name only right now, the way they're playing. So they've been on a roll. So it's a challenging schedule. They do have some advantages here. They play Sengun and Steven Adams a lot more at the same time on the court. And they've been really dominating opponents when they get them on the court together. I think they're like plus 85 in like 100 minutes when those two are on the court. So they're absolutely dominating. I'd like to see them shoot the free throws a little bit better. They're a young team. They're the worst shooting team from the free throw line. That's important. to win some of these games. But yeah, other than that, it's been a really good season for them. And as you mentioned, they have a challenging schedule to close. Gear up for it. Let's have some fun with it.
No doubt about that. Now moving on to the Denver Nuggets here. They are 4-6 in their last 10 games. They hold a current 1-game lead over the Lakers out west for the 3rd spot. Jamal Murray had a big night when it was needed the most against Houston, and yet another game without their leader in Nikola Jokic. And he scored 39 points, dishing out 7 assists, and the Nuggets are 10-1 this season when Murray scores 30-plus points. So, Bruce, is this a team that you think can kind of survive and maybe even advance into that 2nd spot still if they can get the Joker back by the weekend?
Well, he's now missed 5 straight games. They got pounded at home by the Bulls on Monday night, okay? They've got some tough games left, but they don't have any East Coast trips, so the travel shouldn't be too bad. But over the last month, they're just a 500 team, okay? Not exactly ramping up their peaking at the right time thing. I know I'm very big on that, but I feel that that's important, to start building up. And they need to start getting on a little bit of a roll on this homestand. I think they have several more straight home games. So I think, they need to, I think maybe 4 straight, their next 4 games, maybe at home. I've got to double check that, but they need to kick it into gear and now, because they've been floundering for the last month.
They really are. And they've got the Milwaukee Bucks up next on Wednesday when this podcast gets released. Roby, what's your thoughts on the Nuggets right now?
They're obviously, it surrounds Joker. They're so much different team when he's not on the court. They score about 20 points, over 20 points per 100 possessions more when he's on the court than off, which continues to boggle my mind considering the lineup that they put out there, that it depends so much on Joker for their success. As Bruce mentioned, Jamal Murray's been awesome since the All-Star break. I think he's the 2nd best 3-point shooter since a break. He's at 47%. He's 5 straight games now shooting 50% from the field. He had 28 the game after the Houston game. He came in a loss to the Bulls, but it wasn't necessarily the fault of Jamal Murray. So he's been carrying the load for them. Defensively, it's been a train wreck lately for them. They are one of the worst defenses in March, down the bottom 10 in scoring defense, opponents shooting from the field, and opponents shooting from 3-point range. You got to be able to play defense. They're in the bottom, I think they're 22nd entering Tuesday in defensive efficiency. And, over the last 25, 26 seasons, only one team has won the NBA title with a defense ranked outside the top 20 in defensive efficiency, and that was the Lakers back in 2001. So you better get the defense going if you really want to have a shot to get to that 2nd seed and beyond. We were talking to the team 3 weeks ago about challenging in the West, and we really can't be saying that at the moment until Joker gets back.
Yeah, my biggest concern with the Joker being out is, is he staying up to date with his conditioning right now, or is he going to come back out of shape too? Because they cannot have that happen. If he comes back out of shape and not able to stay out on the floor, needs a breather.
When was he in shape?
I mean,
you see how you thought.
The best out of shape possible.
There you go. There you go.
So that's what I'm looking forward to monitoring. Is he coming back looking like the same Joker? I'll say it that way. The same Joker, or is it going to be even slower Joker? We'll have to find out.
Okay.
Next up, we got the Lakers. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games, currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they still have 3 more road games before they get to return home to Los Angeles. So it's safe to say they're going through some adversity at the moment, something that JJ Redick has called out in his previous post-game press conferences, and they find themselves, as of taping, tied with the Memphis Grizzlies for the 4th and 5th spots out west. Now, Bruce, my question to you with the Lakers is, has the excitement kind of wore off and now we're kind of back in reality with this group, or do you think they'll, get their act in gear?
Well, the reality for this group goes like this. They're tremendous at home. They're very poor on the road, only 15-19. And the bad news for them is that of their remaining 11 games, 7 of them are on the road, including 2 at Oklahoma City. Okay. They do have 2 with Houston left, who is going to be, neck and neck with them, but those 2 are at home. So they've got got a good chance to win those. They need to hang on to the number 4 spot so they can start the postseason at home. If they slip down to number 5 and Memphis passes them in the standings, they may not be around too long because, look, I mean, they're almost unbeatable at home, but on the road, I mean, it's like, not good.
Yeah. World B, what's your thoughts on the Lake show?
It's really a mixture for me. I have mixed emotions about when discussing the Lakers. You mentioned they're struggling right now, just 3-7 in their last 10 entering Tuesday. But we got to put a little, you got a little asterisk next to that. They had a unbelievably ridiculous schedule stretch where they played 3 consecutive back-to-backs. They played 6 games in 8 days. I mean, that's just brutal. They went 3-3 during that stretch. So that's an achievement all its own. And when they had Luka in the lineup, they were 3-1 in those games. That's a terrible stretch. On the other hand, when Luka and LeBron are in the lineup together, they're only 8-4. It's not like they've dominated. It's not like how the Warriors got better when Jimmy Butler came to town. They're only 8-4 with those 2 in the lineup together. So, and 3 of the losses, by the way, Utah, Chicago, Charlotte. These aren't exactly quality losses for the Lakers. So they do have some work to do. I think they're going to end up still with the 4th seed, but it might be by default because I'm kind of giving away the lead here. But I'm not a big fan of where Memphis is right now going forward. So I think Lakers can hang on to the 4th spot almost by default.
Yeah, well, let's talk about those Memphis Grizzlies because much like the Lakers, Memphis has also lost their last 3 games. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And since last week's show, the Grizzlies also lost their number 1 spot for most points scored per game. That title is now held by the Cleveland Cavaliers, which isn't too shocking there. But, Bruce, what's your takeaway from this Grizzlies team that just continues to have a rotation of players being available, hurt, not hurt? It just seems like a carousel of injuries with that group.
Well, you got to give Taylor Jenkins credit. I mean, he's basically cobbles together a different sort of rotation all the time with the adversity he's been through. They've got 6 road games and 5 home games remaining. Okay. And they do have a challenging schedule. They got some tough opponents. They got to go on the road to OKC and Denver. And they have some tough ones at home. They have the Lakers, they have the Celtics, they have the Warriors, and they have Minnesota, who is really kind of, still a dangerous team, even though we've talked about them hardly at all this year. But, they've been so hot and cold. But Memphis is really going to have its work cut out for them. I mean, between the injuries and some tough opponents that all will have something to play for. They do, we'll see how if Taylor Jenkins has any more magic that he can pull out of his hat.
Yeah, and he's going to need some magic because I sure am not a believer in John Morant this year. He just hasn't shown me enough consistency throughout a full stretch of games to where I have any hope with him. But World B, I'll let you kind of get onto your soapbox a little bit on your own worries with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Well, they're just not getting it done offensively or defensively. For a good part of the season, they were the answer to a trivia question, like who is the only teams to rank in the top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. It was, it wasn't even Cleveland for a good stretch. It was Oklahoma City, it was Boston, it was Memphis. They were that good all around at both ends. Well, since the All-Star break, they're 20th in defensive efficiency. They're 16th in offensive efficiency. That's why they're 7-10 since the break. It's trending downhill. You mentioned they've had injury issues like nobody else in the league. And it's happened for 2 years now, let's be honest. They really they bottomed out last season. We thought they were getting better when they got healthy, and now their worlds got better. But John Morant has only played his longest stretch of games played in a row is 6, and that just happened recently. So when he's on the court, shooting less than 30% from 3-point range, I'm sorry, your best offensive guy can't shoot like that from 3-point range and be a success. It's going to be trouble for them to hang on with the schedule that Bruce mentioned, for them to continue, get into the top 4 of the Western Conference. I don't see it happening. They're trending down, and I don't think that's going to end anytime soon.
Yeah, and I'll come to John Morant's defense here, just as far as the shooting numbers are concerned. I mean, it's hard to kind of get into a rhythm when you're not playing stretches of games.
Totally true. 43 games. He's missed a bunch of games. Totally understandable. I get it. But let's be honest, he also has not exactly been a lights out shooter throughout his career. 29% from 3-point range this year is not his career low, by the way. He's got some work to do there. Now, granted, that came last season. He only played about 9 games, so it's not exactly fair. But you get the point. He's never been a lights out shooter. And you're absolutely right. When you only play 5 games and sit 4 or this and that, it's tough to get a rhythm. You're absolutely right about that. But if you're talking about how they're going to do this season, it's not going to change anytime soon. So he's got to, if he can find the answer in his shooting touch, then things get a little better for them. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, time is running out. Now, as we get to the Eastern Conference here, we also have some musical chairs going on with the 4 through 6 seeds. 2 games or less separate the 3 teams battling for playoff positioning, which are the Indiana Pacers, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Detroit Pistons. Let's go ahead and start off with the Pacers here, Bruce. They're winners of 5 straight games, 7-3 in their last 10. They've been on a nice roll here as of recently. They've got a 2-game lead over the Bucks for 4th place in the East. That seems like it's pretty much safe at this point, given the unfortunate news out of Milwaukee with Damian Lillard. But what do you see the Pacers doing here down the stretch? And do you like their chances to, just safely secure that 4th spot?
Yeah, I think they're in good shape. I mean, look, they've got 11 games left, 7 home, 4 away. They're a very good home team, 24-9. A little shaky on the road, below 500. But again, they only have 4 road games left. 3 of them are against pretty tough teams, OKC, Denver, and Cleveland. But if they can take care of their business at home, they should hang on to the number 4 spot. And they had a really nice win on Monday night where they hammered Minnesota. So, it was funny. Rudy Gobert played the entire game, had 0 block shots, which I thought was kind of an interesting stat from that game. Miles Turner had 4, which was more than the entire Timberwolves team.
That's shocking, actually, that Gobert didn't get 1 in that game. And that was also the return of Tyrese Halliburton, which obviously played a major factor there. Will be any thoughts on the Pacers?
Yeah, they're one of the best teams since the All-Star break. Let's call it what it is. They're 10-1 at home since the break. They're dominating at home. And you mentioned Halliburton. He's been one of the best players in the league in the second half of the season, post the All-Star break. If you have an All-NBA team post All-Star break, he's probably first team. He's been that player. He's one of 3 players averaging 20 and 10, 20 points a game, 10 assists a game since the All-Star break. The other 2 were Joker and Trae Young. So that's pretty good company to be in. He's been one of the best shooters in the league since the All-Star break among guards, shooting about 54% from the field. That was a real problem earlier in the year. So you talk about guys playing well at the right time. We talked about Kawhi getting it ready for the postseason. Well, we saw what Halliburton's capable of last season in the postseason, especially against the Knicks when he got going. If he stays healthy, he's gearing himself up, and so are the Pacers for another good postseason.
Yeah, keep an eye on them. They could be a dark horse out east yet again this postseason. So next up, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously, we touched on them a little bit at the top of the show here. As of Tuesday night, the Detroit Pistons blew out the San Antonio Spurs in Detroit, 122-96. So with that win for the Detroit Pistons, the Bucks are now tied for that 5th spot with the Pistons. And with the Damian Lillard news, Bobby Portis still being out for some time here. Bruce, do you have any hope for the Milwaukee Bucks, or is it now looking like the Bucks might slide to 6 and play World Bees Knicks in a first-round series at Madison Square Garden?
Their schedule isn't brutal. They've got 6 of their final 11 at home, and they're not dropping out of the top 6. I mean, they're in no danger of finishing 7. But the final 2 games of the season are head-to-head with Detroit. Okay, so those 2 games will probably determine who finishes 5th and who finishes 6th. As long as you got Giannis, just about every night he'll be the best player on the court. So you got that going for you. But they're staggering right now. They're like a boxer that's taken a few punches and is a little bit wobbly from the waist down.
Yeah, World B, can you offer any glimmers of hope for Bucks fans out there?
Sure. The one thing I've been on their case about for most of the season, certainly since Doc took over last season, was where was the defense? Their defense is not. That's what I'm used to seeing from the Milwaukee Bucks. During their championship run, was the unbelievable defense when Coach Bud had them there. They were top 5, number 1 in defensive efficiency, all these things. Well, since the All-Star break, they're the 3rd best defense in the league. So they do have some things going for them that gives them a shot. As Bruce mentioned, the schedule is not a killer schedule down the stretch. I mean, you get the Hawks, you get the Suns, you get the Pelicans twice, once on the road, once at home. You get the Miami Heat, you get the 76ers. I mean, there's opportunities for them to withstand the loss of Lillard if they can for however long it may be, maybe the rest of the season, who knows. But there is a glimmer of hope with them. Their offense obviously was already struggling since the All-Star break. They're down near the bottom half of the league in efficiency since the All-Star break. Lillard being out is not going to help that. But their defense gives them a shot and a schedule that is favorable, if you want to put it that way. The 2 matchups with Detroit notwithstanding, they do have a chance to get keep a hold of the 5th spot. And who knows, if some of these teams bottom out, why not get them into the 4th spot? I don't see it happening, but they have a shot.
Yeah, and those last 2 games, as you said, Bruce, should be interesting against the Detroit Pistons, as definitely will have some playoff implications on the line in those. Now, last up, you've been a big Pistons fan all year, Bruce. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. I guess that can now be corrected. They're 6-4 in their last 10. Big win over the Spurs, who have actually been surging themselves. They had won, I think, 3 straight games heading into this one, and obviously have a lot of young, good talent as well. So what are you thinking with the Pistons? Do you think they're still a team you might, lay a few dollars on in a first-round upset?
Yeah. I mean, look, the thing I like about this team, one of the things, because as you mentioned, I've been kind of a fan of what they've done all season long. They're a really good road team. They're 21-16 on the road. Okay. That's one of the better road records in the conference. And, definitely, look, not a whole lot of teams in the 6th spot are usually that good on the road. So, they have that going for them. And they're above 500 at home too. They battle you every night. They're physical. They don't take any crap off of anybody. They have some legitimate tough guys on their team, and they have some legitimate talent. So, yeah, I mean, look, I said at the beginning of the year, buy Pistons stock, and I see no reason that hasn't worked out.
Yep, will be.
Bruce gets all the props for it. He saw what I didn't see. Same thing with the Rockets. He saw what I didn't see. You got to show me kind of guy here. I was like that during the preseason, the preview, and both the Rockets and the Pistons have definitely shown me something here. And the Pistons are one of the more enjoyable teams to watch. Kate Cunningham is a superstar. Should be an All-NBA player this year. One of the top, first, second, or third team. He should be on that list. I will say this: if they don't get to that 4th spot, they can look at losing to the Wizards and losing to the Mavericks as really killer losses for them. As the reasons why, it's not going to be because they didn't beat the Bucks or down the stretch. It's because you lost over the last 2 weeks to the Wizards and the Mavericks. Those are games you cannot lose, especially this time of year, if you want to get in a good playoff spot. They do have it's not going to be easy for them. You get Cleveland, you get OKC, you get a red-hot Minnesota team, you get the Bucks, who knows what it'll be like at the end of the year. You get the Knicks. The Kings are reeling. The Grizzlies are reeling, as we mentioned. You do get Toronto in their building. Toronto's a train wreck no matter where they play these days. So it's not exactly a cakewalk for them to get to that spot. But, boy, they're as much fun to watch as just about any team in the league this year, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of the better feel-good stories in the NBA. And I think bottom line with this team is even just getting a first-round playoff series matchup is just going to be a phenomenal experience for this young group, and only can build on that in the future and become much scarier as a team, being in that pressure spot and getting the bright lights of the playoffs. So,
and by the way,
Lots of good things to come.
By the way, this feels a lot like Orlando last season. And Orlando, didn't have the experience. They were a young team. They had that first round experience, first playoff appearance. They're supposed to just enjoy the moment, as it were. We weren't expecting much. And they pushed the Cavs to 7 games. So anybody who gets Detroit in the first round, it's not going to be, they're just enjoying the fact that they made it this year. These teams can play, and obviously Detroit can certainly play. So I wouldn't discount them in any series, honestly, in the first round.
Absolutely. So lots of fun down the stretch here in the NBA as these things shake out, and a lot of competition still in the works here as we reach the 82-game mark and head into the play-in tournament. But with that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week to be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.